We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. If you're listening to this on the podcast and you're wondering where the video was this week, I'm here to remind you guys, I don't know, at this point, do I really have to remind you? It's the divisional round at this point. If you haven't figured it out, I'm not sure what to tell you, but this is the one segment per week that will live exclusively on the Line Movement YouTube channel. So this is a video that I look forward to each and every week. Obviously, we've had Mike Tagliere with us a bunch. We've also had TJ Hernandez with us a bunch. It feels like a while since I've got to talk to my good buddy, Mike Tagliere. Obviously, he is the lead NFL analyst for FantasyPros.com. He does write that insanely in-depth article, the primer, about every player and every game throughout the regular season. But Mike, I can see it in your face, man. Not having that in the postseason, get to sit back, enjoy football a little bit, get back in the gym. How's life, man? How's post-primer life treating you?
I got to say, it was awesome, man. So the Bears had a playoff game this past week, and, well, they suck, and we knew that they were going to lose, but it gave me a reason to, I made some pulled pork. I smoked pulled pork. We made coleslaw. We made mac and cheese. We made the whole entire spread. It was fantastic, and I was able to just sit back and watch a football game. Now, the Bears, again, they suck, and it wasn't enjoyable watching that game. I mean, but at the same time, it was nice being a fan again.
Yep. Well, at least you got to watch some playoff football, man. My Cardinals kind of pissed that away pretty quickly towards the end of the year, but we digress. This is always a fun segment. We kind of tweaked it a little bit for the postseason. Instead of just going through our locks of the week for the entire slate, obviously these are much smaller. DraftKings did, fortunately, have the foresight to give us a 4-game main slate this week instead of last week where it was basically just split up Sunday and Saturday only with all the featured games. So that's positive, but we're going to actually go through, give one lock from each game in the divisional round. So this is an interesting week of football. This first game, I guess a little bit less interesting in some ways. LA Rams at Green Bay Packers. I gave you an out here, Mike, because I know that there's a lot of people that are going to be on Cam Akers. He's 5,700, but it sounds like you have a little bit of interest in him, of course, but also Aaron Jones, which is a guy we haven't really talked a ton about this week. 6,800 Aaron Jones, 5,700 Cam Akers. Tell us why you like both these guys in this game.
Well, I like Aaron Jones. Obviously, it's negative correlation when you talk about running backs playing in the same game. So a lot of people wanting to play Cam Akers, it's really negative for him in a lot of ways, because you look at it and you say the Packers opponents don't play a whole lot of plays. 60.9 plays per game is what the Packers opponents have averaged this year. And that was the lowest in the NFL. So when you look on the other side of the ball and you say, okay, Aaron Jones, he's a home favorite, and their favorite pretty big. The total is not ideal, but at the same time, Aaron Jones is a guy they ramped up towards the end of last year in the Packers offense, and we saw him kind of being ramped up a little bit as the year went on here. Jamal Williams has kind of fallen by the wayside. He's fresh, coming off a week of rest. You look at this Rams defense, and they are elite against the pass, and they are really one of the better defenses against the run as well. However, there is a loophole in here. While they were at home this year, they allowed just 108 points to their opponents. While on the road in that same amount of games, they've allowed 185 points. So almost double the points per game that they're allowing to their opponents on the road. This game is taking place in Lambeau Field. Obviously having that home field advantage in that cold weather. It's supposed to be 25 to 30 degrees for this game. With a chance of snow. So Aaron Jones is a guy that I'm loving for 18 plus touches. I feel like he's a discounted Alvin Kamara, because I've talked about it before, even before this season started, that I feel like he's the doppelganger of Alvin Kamara. He just plays in an offense where Aaron Rodgers doesn't check down nearly as much as Drew Brees does. But these guys are super talented. They are highly efficient with their touches. And if you're looking for someone from this game that is guaranteed that 18 touches, that should be on the winning team at home in ideal conditions, it's Aaron Jones.
It's a great price tag, man. 6,800 for Aaron Jones. I think some people are just going to kind of ram their heads into Devontae Adams in this game. He's 8,600. Just looking at some of the early ownership projections, it looks like he's going to be extremely popular. Obviously, Cam Akers at 5,700 with the volume that he's had these last couple of weeks is a fantastic play. I like the Aaron Jones pivot. I'm going to be honest. It's one that I haven't really considered a ton because I've been kind of off this game. But one thing we talk about come playoff time is like trying to find unique pieces as we go through the slate. And it's not that Aaron Jones is going to be unowned. It's a 4-game slate. There's going to be guys that are owned from each of these games, but it's not a bad flag to plant, I don't think, in this game. So I think that's an interesting one. I was going to look into it a little bit more, but just looking at the pricing, man, I think I'm with you on that. I guess one game that we might be a little bit different on is this next game. It's Baltimore at Buffalo. Sounds like you don't really like anyone in this game, Tags, but Cole Beasley, 4,900. It sounds like at least if he's healthy, that is kind of where you want to attack Buffalo. Harmon came on the show earlier this week and made his case for Stephon Diggs, but curious your thoughts on this game and Cole Beasley.
A lot of it factors into the weather that they're expecting. They're expecting 1 to 3 inches of snow in this game in Buffalo. So you're talking about near freezing temperatures, 1 to 3 inches of snow. Lamar Jackson's not a guy. We've never really seen him play in snow. I think he's played in snow one time in his entire career. It's not great. And when you look at Lamar Jackson, you say, I did a search over the last 2 years. There have only been 3 games where he's actually been an underdog. It's a small sample size, so I don't want to take too much away from it, but he was terrible in those 3 games. So he was not very good. You add in the snow, and it's going to take away some of his ability to cut. It's going to take away some of Stephon Diggs' ability to cut. And that's basically Stephon Diggs is not a Calvin Johnson wide receiver. He's a phenomenal route runner that relies on those cuts. So you're adding in this weather factor, and it's like, all right, Josh Allen has been really good against man coverage over the course of the year. So I think you do have to like him a little bit more than most might. But again, in the snow, it's going to limit some of that. The pass rush might be a little bit tougher to get to Josh Allen. And if he buys time, Cole Beasley did play his normal amount of snaps last week. I just see a lot of more dump off passes if they are playing in the snow than I do taking shots down the field. So I don't love this game at all. If there was no snow in this game, I would have looked at one of the quarterbacks instead, because I do think Lamar Jackson might be the better play, although Josh Allen scares the crap out of me. It scares me to fade Josh Allen with the way he's been playing. But again, in the snow, I think we're going to suppress everything back a little bit. So I'll just take I'll get a little piece of Josh Allen by playing Cole Beasley if I have to play somebody from this game.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the snow as you are. I guess I'll keep an eye on wind. I'm more concerned about wind in general, but you make a good point. Like someone like Stephon Diggs that kind of lives off of those cuts that he's making and being like a really precise route runner. I could see that affecting it. Just looking at ownership, I think Devin Singletary is going to be pretty much the chalk at 4,500 in this spot. Obviously, if he ends up getting all the work there, he's intriguing. Cole Beasley at 4,900, like you said, if he was going to go out there and run the majority of his snaps last week, he's only going to be in a better spot this week. So I'm in on that. Stephon Diggs definitely not going to go overlooked at 7,300. It's just a really nice price for him. I guess one of the arguments that Harmon made this week is that they just move him around so much anyways, that if they end up getting him a little bit more involved in kind of the short to intermediate, obviously that's kind of where you want to attack Buffalo anyway. So interesting game. I'm kind of, I guess, intrigued that you don't like it much. I know that these games on Saturday aren't near as, I guess, intriguing overall for fantasy points as the Sunday games, but trying to grab pieces along the way. Will be interesting.
I love Diggs in general. Like Diggs, the player, I've been a fan of his for a long time. I said a couple of years ago that I think that he's like Antonio Brown, just without the targets. Yep. I felt like he was an elite wide receiver, but it's when you get into his price. I know he's $700 less than Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill, if you're going to get up to that price point, and if you have that $700, I think Tyreek is probably the better play.
All right, well, let's talk about that game. First game on Sunday, Cleveland at Kansas City. Obviously, Tyreek Hill. There's not really much you can do to kind of defend him at this point. But one thing that's really been great is if you have another weapon like Travis Kelce that's going to be able to just kind of work that short to intermediate area. If we have everyone sitting back trying not to get beat deep, someone like Travis Kelce can just completely smash. We've seen it all year long. So Travis Kelce, 7,800, your lock of the week in this game.
Yeah, he's probably the lock of the week in general. I don't know how you leave this slate with a cash game lineup and say, hey, I'm not going to play Travis Kelce. Good luck to you. We talk about Kelce, during the regular season when we have 13 games in the main slate and say, is it worth it to pay up for the production you get out of him? And most of the time it turns out to be yes. You just have to find the other pieces to put into your lineup. But now on a 4-game slate, I think it's impossible to avoid him. He's a guy that's on a crazy streak right now. 8 straight games of 16 plus DK points. In 7 of those 8 games, he scored 22.8 or more. And then you factor in the fact that the Browns have no safeties, no linebackers that can even come close to defending a man of this stature. You look at what they've, in terms of like adding in the players that they've played this year, tight ends have averaged 21% more PPR points against the Browns than they do in their non-Browns games. So this makes it the second best matchup for tight ends from a schedule adjusted standpoint. So, when you add 21.1% PPR points onto Travis Kelce's 22 DK points per week this year, that's a massive performance. And it's almost to the point where if no other tight end on this slate, scores more than like 12 points, you're going to be left cashless in your cash lineups if you're without Travis Kelce. So by paying up for Kelce, you're getting a little clip of Patrick Mahomes because you're probably not going to be able to pay up for both of them.
Right.
So you kind of have to pick your battles here. We have some wide receivers in the value ranges that we can play in these games, like a Michael Thomas, like a Jarvis Landry, whereas tight end, this is the one position you don't play around. Last week we had Mark Andrews and he seemed like the quote unquote chalk. But it was bad chalk. It was under 10 DK points, and that's basically what you get at the tight end position. There are no guarantees outside of Travis Kelce. So he's one guy that he's an absolute lock in lineups.
Yeah, one thing I'm kind of considering in this game is running out Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but actually bringing it back with Baker or one of the other cheaper pieces on the Cleveland side. We talk about, like, on these slates in particular, trying to get creative with your mini stacks. Like, these guys are so expensive for KC. If you add Mahomes to that, especially if we feel confident that the majority of the production is going to come from those two weapons, I think you can fade Mahomes and go to one of these cheaper options. Or even if you're not even playing Baker, just bring it back with one of the other cheaper guys on the Cleveland side, Rashard Higgins, someone like that. So I think that's an interesting spot. One of the games that we're going to have to get right this week, Tags, because that total is insanely high in comparison to some of these other ones. So game number 4. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Michael Thomas still 6,700. Didn't see like crazy volume or anything last week, but did get in the end zone, save some people that played him. Obviously, what's interesting about this slate as a whole, these elite wide receivers, I guess plus Travis Kelce, seeming like a really intriguing way to just spend the majority of your salary because there's not a ton to pay all the way up for a running back. We have Kamara in this spot in a really tough matchup against Tampa Bay. So thoughts on Michael Thomas at 6,700, your lock of the week in game number 4.
Oh, love Michael Thomas. He's a guy he's another one along with Kelce where it's like, I don't know how you avoid him in cash game lineups. If you watched Michael Thomas last week, he was Michael Thomas. He was 2019 Michael Thomas. He's a guy that the Saints knew exactly what they were doing this year. They took their time with Breeze. They took their time with Michael Thomas and they said, hey, look, we're going to put you on IR. We're going to get you right over the next 3 weeks. Do I think Michael Thomas could have played in those 3 games? Yeah, I do. I think the Saints knew that they were not getting a bye, and it was like, we need you for the playoffs. This team was built, like in terms of salary cap, when you look at the Saints roster, this team is going to be blown up next year. There's no way that they have anything close to what they have this year. They know they're in it to win it, and they rested Thomas, and he looked every bit the part of Michael Thomas last week. And you don't get 2019 Michael Thomas for $6,700. You don't. And then you look at the matchup this week against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay looked solid to start the year, but their cornerbacks have eventually shown their true colors. Sean Murphy Bunting is terrible in the slot. That's who Thomas sees there. If they shadow him with Carlton Davis, good. Bring it on. Carlton Davis, he started the year allowing just 26 of 51 passing for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns over the first 8 games. Since that time, 37 of 52 passing for 604 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you recall, Tyreek Hill was the one slamming him against the wall over and over for his 200-plus yard game back, midseason. But ever since that time, Carlton Davis has been on a downward slope. And again, this all comes back to the idea that Tampa Bay is not a team you could run the football on. Latavius Murray is even questionable for this game. So you're not going to see the Saints run the ball a whole lot. And even when they do, it's like banging your head against the wall. You're just doing it basically because you have to do it for a little bit. And then they're going to slowly work towards that pass. Gotta love Michael Thomas here at 6,700. If he were 8K, I think that would be like where it's like, okay, now you have some decisions to make. But the fact that they put him at 6,700, it's kind of a smash.
So looking at there's 2 things that I was kind of upset about when I saw pricing. Number 1 was Cam Akers at 5,700. Yeah. I just think that's one that I still can't get over how they get there. Guy had 28 rush attempts last week, 21 the week before. He's been even somewhat active in the passing game. So that price makes no sense. The second one was Michael Thomas. Last week we opened it up and we're like, okay, we're going to get Michael Thomas coming off this injury. Is it going to be the real Michael Thomas? Or I guess what we were saying, is he 2018 to 2019 Michael Thomas? And the answer was, yeah, 6,400 was his price last week. They only priced him up to 67 in this week. So those are the 2 guys that just stand out as being dramatically underpriced on this slate. So totally with you on both of those. Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We're having a bit of a running challenge with Sigmund Bloom throughout the playoffs on my show, picking winners for each game. So last week I ran pretty hot, went 5-1. Sig's looking for some revenge here. He's starting 3-3. So this week I went with Packers, Bills, Chiefs, and Bucks. I want to know who you have moving on to the conference championship next weekend.
All right. So Packers, definitely the one I'm picking there. Jared Goff, not very good. Aaron Donald not being at a full strength. I do think Aaron Donald's actually dealing with some sort of injury, which is another reason I like Aaron Jones a little bit more. In terms of the Ravens Bills, it's really difficult to not go with the Bills in that game, just with the way that Josh Allen's playing. The defense has really turned things around over the second half of the season. So I'll go Bills. Chiefs, I mean, I don't know if anybody's picking against the Chiefs. And then I'm going to go with the Saints in the final one. I know that no team has ever beat Tom Brady 3 times in one season. But at the same time, Drew Brees, again, this is the last hurrah for him. And even though the Saints defense started out the season extremely slow, that defense really picked up, similar to the Bills. I think they got hot at the right time. That defense is hitting on all cylinders. They have Michael Thomas back healthy. Alvin Kamara is hitting on Drew Brees has actually looked solid too. He started out the year pretty slow. So I think this team is in for a Super Bowl run. My pick at the beginning of the year was Chiefs and Saints. So I think it'd be wise for me to just stick with that at this point, even though the Packers are going to be a tough team to get through.
Well, man, I'll say this. I think that was there any bigger lock on this entire slate that we would get Brees and Brady in game number 4? You knew the NFL was going to do that, right, in prime time. So Mike Tagliere, everyone, make sure you follow him on Twitter at Mike Tagliere NFL. Obviously, check out the primer over at FantasyPros and all the great content they have going through the offseason. Of course, Mike will be a big part of that. Before you get out of here, smash that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, let us know in the comments your favorite overall play on DraftKings this week. Mike, enjoy some playoff football this weekend, my man. I'm sure we'll talk very soon.
Yes, sir.